Tonight on Joy News Prime, Ghana AIDS Commission announces a new outreach targeting churches after it found out that 80% of persons living with HIV identify themselves as churchgoers.
Therefore, the AIDS Commission seeks to strengthen its partnership with the church and encourage the church to use its pulpits to mobilize its members to test for HIV and support.
Some persons we've been speaking to, however, find the statistic unbelievable.
Yes, they host HIV, so whatever they say is true. But to me, I can say it's a fallacy.
Good. We intend to interrogate the statistics a bit more to establish the veracity and also find out what the Christian community makes of it. The Accra Region Police says residents in the capital should have some reason to cheer because it has arrested a bunch of suspected hardened criminals, including a spiritualist and another who poses as a police CID officer before robbing his victims.
In fact, these robbers have confessed to series of crimes in an area near Trasaku, where victims were robbed and raped.
The Cape Coast University branch of the Agricultural Development Bank says it is considering its legal options after its branch manager died supposedly because she was denied a bed at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital.
So whilst we were waiting, the doctor came and then said that we called earlier, but then she told us there is no bed. So why then did we come with it? And then still informed us that since there is no bed, we have to take our patients back.
In business,
we explore the outlook of Ghana's oil and gas sector following the fallout of Talos' disturbing production forecast that's said to be behind the resignation of its chief executive.
And the National Labour Commission has declared as illegal the nationwide strike by teachers in the public sector or public sector schools, which has compelled, in some cases, prefects to take charge of the classroom. I'm Israel Lai, and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomilimli here in Accra with digital address GA09925339. Stay tuned in. In our first story, the Ghana AIDS Commission says it will be embarking on an aggressive campaign to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS in churches. After statistics revealed, churchgoers account for 80% of persons living with HIV. Officials attribute this to what they describe as less active social mobilization and community participation in the campaign on risk behaviors. Speaking at the World AIDS Day event at Kwadaso in Kumasi, technical coordinator Olivia Graham says the Commission is seeking to strengthen partnerships with churches for increased awareness, voluntary testing, and antiretroviral use. The release of the statistics has riled members of the Christian faith, with some suggesting the publication unfairly stigmatizes them. We'll get some clarity from the relevant stakeholders, former General Secretary of the Christian Council and the Acting Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Chairman Tuahene, in a bit, after hearing from the technical coordinator at the Ghana AIDS Commission, Olivia Graham.
I would like to make special appeal to the church because they are in a unique position to help achieve the 1990 targets. Indeed, Christians are the majority population in the country, and statistics show that 80% of persons living with HIV in Ghana go to church. Therefore, the AIDS Commission seeks to strengthen its partnership with the church and encourage the church to use its pulpits to mobilize its members to test for HIV and support those who test positive to assess and adhere to antiretroviral treatment. Our vision is to leave no one behind, and so we'll make HIV prevention, treatment, and care services easily accessible for all.
Well, a number of people preferring to be Christians or churchgoers we spoke with don't quite believe the statistics to be true. Why though? Let's hear them.
No, I beg they should kindly review this. Church, really, what of the mosques? And I mean, trust me, there are other religions in Ghana, so they laying emphasis on Christianity. Please, they should really, check this.
It was kind of a shock to me because upon all what our pastors and our apostles preach at church, and then this is also coming up from research. I mean, it's kind of devastating.
Yes, they host HIV, so whatever they say is true. But to me, I can say it's a fallacy in what I have been taught, because point from illegitimate authority does not necessarily mean it's true. Yes, they should bring out proofs. And then if you are saying most of Christians have AIDS, it means what our pastors are portraying to us, they must emphasize on it very well, because AIDS comes with so many things, you understand? Yes, not only having sex, that's why you can get AIDS.
So if they are saying that, I don't know how the research was done. So they should give us reasons why they are saying it's Christians. Yeah, because HIV, you can get it from many other ways, not only sex.
Why this stigmatization, and why do you want to discriminate people based on their religion? So do you want to say that the other religions, they are not worth mentioning their names, that this number of percentage also have this people living with HIV? It's not fair, and it's discriminating according to religion, and it's not right.
Okay, so I strongly doubt that 80% of Christians are HIV/AIDS patients, because people aside Christians also go behind the scene and also have sex, and I don't think they should say that.
All right, so joining me in the studio now is the Acting Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Chairman Etua Ahene, to answer some of the pertinent questions that have come up. We're also joined via Skype by former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Fred Degbe. Thank you both for your time. And I'd like to start with you. I observed that whilst we're playing the views of the people out there on the streets, you had some disagreements. So let's start with that before we actually get into the issue proper. What are your issues with what they have to say?
Not disagreement as such.
They don't believe the statistics.
Yes. First of all, I am a Christian myself, and I'm happy my senior pastor, Dr. Degbe, is also on this platform. I am a Christian, not just a churchgoer, and so I know the implications of the data. But what we have tried to do is not to stigmatize. This data is not new. It's been available over the last 5 years.
Okay.
From the Demographic and Health Survey 2014. That's where the data is coming from.
But you extrapolated it?
No extrapolation. It's just the actual data, right? So
if we've had this 5 years ago, does it mean that it may have changed by now?
It's possible, but if it has changed, is it for the better or for worse? We don't know. And so when you look at the data of the Demographic and Health Survey actually presented HIV prevalence by a number of socio-demographic variables. So you have age, you have education, ethnic groups, religion, residence, that's rural, urban, wealth, and employment. There are quite a number of them.
Okay.
And so this particular one looks at the religion.
And what does it say?
What it says, it gives the numbers of people who live with HIV who are in the various religious groups.
And 80%?
And yes, and when you put it all together and strike the percentage for churchgoers, that's about 80% of the people living with HIV.
All right. We also have Reverend Fred Degbe on joining us via Skype. So I'd just like to go to him. Thank you very much, Reverend Degbe. I'd like to get your reaction to these the statistics that have been released or shared with us by the Ghana AIDS Commission. What do you make of it?
Well, a bit disturbing, but I would say if it is based on research, I will be very cautious in just doubting it because I've had a very long working relationship with Ghana AIDS Commission. I was with them last year at home, and so I do not think that they just cooked up those figures to stigmatize Christians. There may be a few things, time permitting, that I would like to share about this. Because,
are you shocked by the figures?
Well, if 70% of Ghanaians say they are Christians, and you see, the truth is this, from some of the comments that have been made, that sometimes has been the issue with church and with people. They say to the pure, all things are pure. If somebody is, excuse me to say, promiscuous, when they are going out there, they know what to do to protect themselves. But if people go to church and they are being taken advantage of by hawks and other people, they are sometimes too naive to think that having an affair one time or this or that something actually can happen. So it's been proven over and over and over again that people who are in religious communities who sometimes are not taught and equipped easily fall victim to all kinds of crimes, all kinds of abuses. And then they just find themselves very helpless. So it's just proving something that was found some time ago in the Bible Belt in the US, that a lot of sexual and deviant behavior was found among religious communities because the communities were not educated as to what is around. And when their children are going to school or they have prom, they have all these things, sometimes people drug them and they get into all these things. And then you get the STDs, STIs. So this may explain some of the behavior that our people fall into.
Reverend Degbe, from what you're saying, I gather that I could summarize it and say that you feel that the regular or the average churchgoer believes that the person sitting next to them is pious. And so they really don't have a problem with them. Is that the point you're making?
No. Well, partly. Sometimes they may not even be prepared to, or they may not be aware that those they are praying with, those they are having long meetings with, could take advantage of them.
All right.
Or things can happen in close proximity. That's why I'm saying those who are streetwise know what they are out there to do, and therefore they get prepared for it.
All right.
Those who are not streetwise, churchwise, sometimes are so naive that people take advantage of them.
All right. Let's move the conversation forward, Ms. Etuahene. So I gather from what the AIDS Commission rep said earlier on in the soundbite that we played is that you find a lack of awareness among churchgoers, and so you see it as an opportunity to reach people in the church. So what message are you sending to them?
Right. So first of all, we just want to emphasize that this data is not to stigmatize churchgoers or Christians. We are not here to stigmatize any group in this in Ghana, in Ghanaian society, as the institution responsible for the national response. We need to understand what is happening so far as HIV epidemic is concerned. And our policy is to eliminate HIV and AIDS in Ghana within the shortest possible time. And so we need to identify where people living with HIV are and be able to target them. And so I was just playing around with the data. And in fact, I won't go into the other things I have found. And so this thing came up. And we are just saying that we need to partner with the churches. And the churches have to also partner with us. Because if we work together, then the people who live with HIV in the churches can access treatment and become healthy and live long.
How are you seeing this partnership? Or what form would you want it to take?
We have worked with the church for many years, and we want to continue along the same lines.
Do you want to have, for instance, have an opportunity to mount the pulpit to preach?
Yes, we will want to support the church. If it takes training of the pastors and church leaders, we are prepared to do that. If it takes senior members of the clergy, taking specific actions like we used to do with Dr. Fred Degbe and others, we will do that.
Would you want to share condoms, for instance, in the churches?
Well, we will not offer condoms to the church, but if the church invites or requests for, we will do so. But the important thing is that we have to begin, the church has to begin using its pulpit to mobilize its members.
All right.
We have HIV testing available, which is free. We can always give that opportunity to churches to test for free. We have antiretroviral treatment, which is also for free, and we are happy to make it available to the churches.
All right,
and so it really calls for much stronger collaboration than we currently have.
All right. Let me get a reaction from Reverend Degbe. Reverend Degbe, so you heard Mr. Etuahene. Would you want to make the pulpit available, or make your pastors get your pastors trained on these things, and give an opportunity for the Ghana AIDS Commission to speak to members of your congregation about HIV/AIDS and how to prevent AIDS, and even share condoms?
Just before I come to that, we're talking about 80% of 170,000 people living with HIV and AIDS in Ghana. Can Mr. Etuahene confirm that? So it doesn't look like 80% of Ghanaian population have HIV and AIDS. It's 80% of 170,000.
Yes, 80% of 170,000.
Pardon me?
Not 170,000. Yeah. We are talking about 80% of persons
living with it.
Yes, identified to be living with HIV.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's not 80% of Ghanaian population.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just wanted us to re-echo that, because otherwise you hear something tomorrow, 80% of Ghanaian Christians have HIV and AIDS.
No,
it's
not at all.
80% of the population. But Israel, coming back to your substantive question, at Christian Council, we always thought, like he said, we worked with the Ghana AIDS Commission and other bodies because we believe that prevention is better than cure. And our message has been ABC, if I may go back to it. Abstention is the best. If you are married, be faithful, because there's a lot of cheating in marriages, even in Ghana. And that's where most of the...
So unfortunately, we lost that connection to him there, but he was making the point. So, all right, Reverend Degbe, you were just making that point. All right. So,
age, I don't know whether their sample was this. Decipher that people are married but who still play away games here and there, and then
we're having challenges with that connection. So, have you made any approaches to any of the churches, and what has been the feedback?
The feedback is quite positive, but we have to have the big church organizations like Christian Council, the Catholic bishops, the Pentecostal and Charismatic Association, and the others. We want to target these large groups because we cannot go to every church. And so if we work with them, and here we are talking of partnership, because they are our people living with HIV, come from our families, our communities, and in everywhere. And so we have to see it as partnership and not as stigmatizing the church, not at all. That is not the objective at all.
So I'm told we have Reverend Fred Degbe back on the line. So let's quickly go to him. So you were making your point before the line dropped.
Christian Council has always cooperated with the Ghana AIDS Commission because we believe that prevention is better than cure. It's better to inform our people to arm themselves. And our message was reduced and has been reduced to ABC. Abstention, be faithful, and if you know you are not going to be A or B, use the condom. Christian Council has taught that. So the priority is A, be faithful. Abstention, be faithful, and C, condom when you find it necessary. Because it is better for you to take precaution than to have all these STIs and STDs worrying you, disturbing you, and you function less than God expected you to function and live a very marginalized life. And also to know that if people test and they are positive, it is not the end of life. There is help available. As the Ghana AIDS Commission is telling us, there's help available for people with antiretroviral drugs and all kinds of support that is available. And we should not condemn them or stigmatize them. It is just one of those things that happen, and there's help available.
Reverend David, I need a quick answer to this. Would you allow condoms to be distributed in your church?
Cautiously. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't go to church and distribute condom. No.
But
I'll teach about it, but I'll not distribute it.
All right. Thank you very much, Reverend Fred David, former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. And thank you very much, Mr. Etua Hene, Acting Director General of Ghana AIDS Commission. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Still to come in the bulletin, the Cape Coast University branch of the Agricultural Development Bank says it is considering its legal options after its branch manager died supposedly because she was denied a bed at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital.
So whilst we were waiting, the doctor came and then said that we called earlier, but then she told us there is no bed. So why then did we come with it? And then still informed us that since there is no bed, we have to take our patients back.
We'll be back in a bit. Stay tuned. It says it has made giant strides in clamping down on crime after the arrest of 7 hardened criminals, a spiritualist and an imposter who poses as a CID officer before robbing his victims. At a media briefing at the police headquarters, DCOP Frederick Edu Enim stated some of the suspects are part of a robbing syndicate who also raped their victims. He stated foreign pistols, pump-action guns, talisman, and vehicles were retrieved.
Suspect Al-Hassan Abdullahi, a spiritualist who performs rituals for the gang before they embark on their operations, was also arrested. The police found on him a pistol and 2 rounds of ammunition and 2 empty AK shells. Intelligence also led to the arrest of suspect Eunice Dokenu, the wife of Kwame Techi, as an accomplice. On hearing of the husband's arrest, she handed over a foreign pistol belonging to her husband to one ED currently at large in an attempt to conceal evidence against the husband. She, however, led police to retrieve 5 rounds of pistol ammunition wrapped in a rubber bag and buried in the ground. In fact, these robbers have confessed to a series of crimes in Accra, including 2 robberies at an area near Trasaco, where victims were robbed and raped in addition. On this date, they attacked one Albert Adamu, a money changer at Akoko Photo. They shot him in the left thigh and left shoulder and succeeded in robbing him of cash, the sum of 280,000 Ghana cedis, and left him to his fate. The same group, during this year, attacked a Chinese businessman at Wija, SCC, near Kaswa, and also robbed him of an unspecified amount of money. In this case, Abdul Jalid Idris, alias CID, he presented himself as a CID man, as the name implies, from the headquarters. He will just knock at the victim's door, and if you open and allows him in, then the other accomplices will also follow and then rob you of your valuables.
The Accra Region Police Commander further stated police will intensify patrols during the Yota. Now, the Cape Coast branch of the Agricultural Development Bank says it has referred to its legal team the death of its manager at the Cape Coast Hospital after she was allegedly denied admission for lack of beds. This follows the appointment of a committee by the hospital to investigate the death of the ADB manager. The woman is said to have been rushed to the emergency ward of the hospital, but was turned away by the supervisor, claiming there were no beds. We'll take you back to the region for an update, but Central Region correspondent Richard Kojunyako has a story so far.
Colleagues and family members of branch manager of ADB at the University of Cape Coast crying their hearts out. Their pains can't be described in words. They never imagined, thought or dreamt their manager's journey to seek medical care could end this way. Jane Hammond was sent to the Doctors in Service clinic Monday morning and never returned home. The Doctors in Service clinic in Cape Coast referred her to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, the biggest referral center in the central region, only to be told there were no beds.
I walked in and then handed over the referral letter to the nurse by the computer. Then the nurse said he's going to look for the doctor in charge to hand over the letter to. So whilst we were waiting, the doctor came and then said that we called earlier, but then she told us there is no bed. So why then did we come with it? And then still informed us that since there is no bed, we have to take our patients back.
The nurses who sent her to the teaching hospital say they were simply told to go and manage the case themselves because they were overwhelmed. Let's call the nurse Esther.
So I informed my doctor and then he said we should then go to the CT scan and then take a CT scan very quickly and then bring the patients back. So we went to the CT scan room. We met the one in charge of the CT scan who was trying to process it for us very quickly. But in the course of it, the nurse I went with said that the case is very critical, so I should come back and then we take the patients back to GIS. So I rushed into the car and then we brought the patients back. When we came, we were trying to resuscitate her in the car. But then we tried our best. We got to the hospital, we set up oxygen and then continued with the resuscitation. But then she gave up the ghost.
When Joy News followed up to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, they indicated they could not be blamed for the happening. There were no beds at the hospital at the time the patient was brought in. Fred Yanka speaks for the hospital.
The hospital received a call from a facility that they were bringing in a patient, and then the in charge at the A&E replied the call and told the person to hold on because we have had some accident cases and the A&E was full, and so they should hold on and contain the situation whilst we try and prepare a space for the patient.
Was it that the patient couldn't be seen in the vehicle that brought her, or maybe there were some stretchers there that they could have even made the patient lie on?
As for stretchers, we were not having even stretchers that she could be placed on in a vehicle.
That is a referral facility.
Exactly. So it would have been very okay for her to be in that lesser facility whilst we contain the situation and then get a place prepared.
They couldn't contain the situation then. That is why they were referring him.
That I agree with you. And you remember that when the call came, they were also told that the situation here is also, getting out of hand, so they should hold on a little bit.
Many in Cape Coast who heard the happening can't simply believe what their eyes saw and their ears heard. Richard Kwejo, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Right, let's get on to the phone lines and speak with our regional correspondent, Richard Kwejo. Now, Richard, I'm told, or we're learning, that the Select Committee on Health, Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, has been or has intervened in the matter. What do you know about that?
Well, so this morning, management of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital were locked up in a meeting, an emergency meeting, to consider this matter, and that was when a committee was set up to investigate the matter thoroughly, so that they could look into everything that happened. And I was also informed that the Parliamentary Select Committee, upon hearing the story, told them, because they were already headed to the Parliamentary Select Committee, and so that was one of the issues that they would be visiting if they should meet them. And so it is a matter that has been brought to the attention of the Parliamentary Select Committee. But as to what decisions have been taken about it, we are yet to know.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Kwejo, for that quick update. And moving on, many children did not go to school today due to the ongoing teacher strike. At most basic and senior high schools Joy News visited, National Service personnel and National Builders Corps workers were seen in the classrooms teaching the few children in class. In other schools, teachers, although present, refused to teach. There is more in the following report.
The second day of the teachers' strike saw many teachers reporting to work but refusing to teach. The Joy News team spotted empty classrooms and children loitering in the school's compounds. Head teachers of most of these schools told the team off camera they have to now let National Service personnel and workers of NABCO take over the invigilation of examinations for the Form 3 students. Form 2 and 1 students in some senior high schools were being taught by some of the few teachers available in some of these schools. Although the GES said since 2017 the current government had paid arrears due those who deserve them, the teachers say they are still unsatisfied. Until this is resolved, the messiness in most schools across the country will continue.
In the Ashanti region chapter of the Ghana National Association of Teachers says it is arranged for some teachers to take care of children who report for school amid the teacher strike. Not joined two other teacher associations to withdraw their services effective Monday over unpaid salary arrears. Checks in schools on the second day of the industrial action reveals pupils at the basic level still show up for class. NAT says members cannot stop pupils from going to school since school managers and some other teachers are available to supervise them.
There hasn't been a total strike ever on earth. No strike has ever been total. Even when you look at the medical section, medical doctors can decide to go on strike and they will say that they will not receive any new case. But those on admission, they will attend to them. So we are also in the same category because we are in the service industry. So one, we have said we are not going to school. Not going to school, we have head teachers who are managers, and the Labour Act makes it clear that when you fall within the managerial section, you cannot do so because you are entrusted with certain properties and you have to go and ensure that they are in good condition. Our issue is that while we are on strike, there is the possibility that our demands could be met. So negotiations are still going on. While we do all these things, a skeletal staff could be at the workplaces to ensure that there is no distraction to the property over there. That is very important. So our emphasis is not to shift the post. We are saying we are on strike based on 1, 2, 3, 4, the issues assigned by the Ghana Education Service. So when those things are met, we will go back. So we feel that over the weekend, parents were aware. Everybody knew that what was going to happen. Yesterday, we started it and told the world that due to what has happened, this is what we are doing. So still, some of the children, for the love of going to school, and some parents also feel that when the children go to school, they have enough time to do whatever they want to do. So for those parents, they wouldn't care whether the child is going, if there is a teacher there or not. It shows the clear picture, the challenges that we are facing in public schools.
But in the northern region, prefects of the Zimle Girls Junior High School in the northern region capital Tamale have assumed the role of teachers as they begin supervising their juniors and colleagues following the strike declared yesterday by their teachers. Most of the prefects who spoke with Joy News said they conducted dictation tests for their juniors and ensured they studied. Lanza Baraka, prefect, said the prefects conducted the assembly, ensured that the students observed the silent hour and other programs of the day. She said they are preparing them for the examinations on Wednesday.
I thought we'd be writing exams this week, but when we came, they said tomorrow. So we'll be coming tomorrow to see whether we will get the test right or not.
Did any of your teachers come to school?
Yes.
Did they teach you?
No. So what we were revising on what they had taught us earlier.
I came to school at 5:45, and when we come to school, our teachers are not there. We are supposed to take our books and read. So all the class, almost the prefects, we enter and let them to pick their books and read. And if it is break time, they will go out for break. If we come back, some of them will be doing dictation, some will be doing some of the trainees, they will also come inside and be teaching us.
So the trainees were here today to teach you?
Yes. When we came to school, we the prefects, we helped the students to do the general cleaning as usual. And after the general cleaning, we sat them back inside the classrooms for silence hour. Then they were reading. When it was break time, they came out. When it was break over, some of us were inside their classrooms, were learning with them.
Were you the people teaching them?
No, we're just asking them questions and they were answering us.
Okay.
We're not teaching.
So you are the prefects are supervising the rest of the school.
Yes,
what's your name?
Baraka.
Baraka what?
Right, so the very latest on this is that the National Labour Commission has issued a directive describing the strike as illegal. I'll share some of the contents here with you. So the National Labour Commission says it met the various stakeholders or representatives involved, including the Ghana Education Service and the teacher unions. It, however, indicates that the coalition of concerned teachers were absent. All right, but it says the commission, after hearing the Ghana Education Service on the matter, observed as follows: that the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and coalition of concerned teachers failed to notify the NLC and its employer of the ongoing nationwide strike in contravention of the Labour Act, and that the commission, in exercise of the authority conferred on it, finds the association's action in violation of Act 651, and therefore the ongoing strike of the unions is illegal. And it concludes that the teacher unions call off the strike immediately and return to work. So we're learning that the teacher unions are presently meeting over this, and we're hoping that we can get some reaction from them when that meeting is done. And moving on, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, RAJ, says it is working to reintegrate alleged witches in some witch camps in the northern region back into society. Commissioner of RAJ, Joseph Whittal, says such women have for many years been on the receiving end of many forms of abuse and unacceptable levels of torture. He told a commemorative event in collaboration with the UNDP in Accra, his outfit will, on December 20, decommission the said witch camps and ensure inmates have dignified lives. The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has also been speaking against torture, which it believes is the most recurrent incident often meted out to citizens by police, military, and other service personnel. The Commission says such forms of rights abuses must be condemned.
December 20th, the Commission will be joining Action Aid Ghana in Nabuli at the back of Yendi in the northern region to symbolically decommission a witch camp which held alleged witches for a number of years. And through the hard work of both the Commission and Action Aid, we have been able to reintegrate the vulnerable old women who were called witches back into their communities, supporting them with some microfinance to keep them to be able to, run themselves and to make some businesses. And it is only to send a signal that we should stand up for the vulnerable. And who can be most vulnerable than an old woman who is accused of being a witch and chased out of the community? And so these are the people the Commission stands for. And we are happy to work with any civil society, and in this case, Action Aid Ghana, in ensuring that they have been reintegrated. And the whole process is simply to symbolically close it and to send a signal that we don't expect camps of that nature.
Commissioner Joseph Whittal has also been giving some updates on the enforcement of a recent ruling to have some members of the Ghana Armed Forces who brutalized some children for allegedly stealing a laptop.
The particular rights abuse which we are not comfortable with is the practice of torture by our police and by our military. We've had occasion to investigate a number of cases against the military. As for police brutality, it is something that happens every day. These are things we don't expect to continue. Power has been given by state to these bodies to ensure that we protect them, citizens. We cannot use the power of the state against the same citizens who have given you that power. And so the leadership of the armed forces, of the police, in fact, of every person who has been given power over citizens should be exercised having regard to the fundamental human rights and dignity of Ghanaians.
Recently, there was a ruling from your office on the torture of some young children, and we know that some amount of monies have been awarded for them, and also that you called for the settlement of the medical bills by the military as well. I mean, the soldiers who were involved. Is there any follow-through process to ensure that these are done so they do not get away with it?
Well, I must say that the armed forces is a very disciplined body. You remember there was an earlier case, Christopher Bama. We are working through an implementation plan with the armed forces, and we know, we are confident that they will follow through. This one has just happened, and we are expecting them to get back to us because we've given them 3 months. We want to know how they intend to meet that.
2 defense lawyers in the trial of persons accused of murdering Army Major Maxwell Adam Mahama on Tuesday spent hours questioning the accuracy of an autopsy report. They argued the specialist pathologist had watched the video showing a mob lynching the soldier and was therefore prejudiced. Dr. Lawrence Eduse had earlier told the court the soldier died of multiple head injuries. The lawyers, however, believe the conclusion could have been different. Court correspondent Joseph Akaple reports.
The cross-examination of the state's 13th witness on Tuesday focused largely on the video recording of the gruesome murder. Dr. Eduse was asked why he watched the video, with the lawyers alleging this influenced his conclusion. They argued if he had not watched the video, he may not have concluded that the soldier died from multiple head injuries. Defense lawyer Theophilus Donko was the first to raise the issue of the video recording on Tuesday. He asked the relevance of the pathologist spending minutes to watch a video instead of carrying out his work. Dr. Eduse said the new investigators who took over the case noticed he had mentioned gunshot injury in his report. This, he believed, informed the investigators to arrange a meeting with him. He said he did not request to watch the video, but it was played to him. Another defense lawyer, Augustine Jemfi, also continued with the video issue when he had his turn. Dr. Eduse did not abandon his earlier responses, saying even before he watched the video, he had concluded on the cause of the death, and this did not change. The state is expected to call 1 more witness, making it 14 expected to testify in the court.
Sanitation Minister and Water Resources, when Water Resources Minister Cecilia Abnadapa has charged city authorities in Kumasi to provide more litter bins and encourage residents to separate their waste for easier management. She was not happy that the newly constructed KJTR market had few litter bins. Madam Adapa is on a working visit to assess the sanitation situation in the Ashanti region, where she will visit landfill sites and other facilities over the next 3 days. Nasen Sumensa has more in this report.
Poor sanitation in Kumasi has been a major challenge for authorities, as millions of cedis is spent on collection at the expense of other development needs of residents. At Kumasi Central and Sobe Market, the minister had to order traders to handpick litter around.
Faroba shawonsa na wo beyi de wo ani wo bia nyi de wo nanim ante nkrumawura de wo anim ye so yi ni nyina enye ye besra mo na ye ba na mo ha. We are proffering good advice, and we are making them aware that wherever you are, the place should be devoid of waste, meaning plastics, paper, food remnants, etc., etc. You should have a receptacle. We are promoting the 1 house, 1 bin, 1 business, 1 bin, 1 market store, 1 bin, so that we can collect our waste. Later, we can use them for something good.
Madame Dapa also visited the Asafo Central sewage system, where affluence from over 2,000 households and institutions is collected and treated. Resident engineer Abu Suleiman, complained the facility established in 1994 is currently choked because it's been dislodged only once.
Yes, as you can see, the pond is getting filled up, silt. So we have to de-silt.
How often do you de-silt this pond?
Since we did the construction, we did the dislodging about once.
When did you construct this?
We completed the construction 1994 and 96. Between those years that we've completed and connect the houses into it.
And how many times have you desilted this facility?
Yeah, we desilted it once. Yeah. So as at now, I think the desilting time is due.
Thank you very much.
Oh, don't mention that.
Kumasi Mayor Osei Benchi assures the sewage system will be expanded next year to accommodate waste from over 1,000 more households.
Of course. And as a metropolis, our plans is that next year we want to do the desilting and the expansion so that we can bring on board a lot of households to use the facility. So the reason why we brought her here is for her to understand the challenges that is facing the metropolis, for her to also assist in sourcing for support for KME to be able to do this expansion project.
For Joy News, Nana Asensumensa, Kumasi.
That's it for the bulletin. I'm Israel. PM Express is up next with Evans Smith and stay tuned in.